I've been stuck in an airplane for the past 5 hours, and something weird is starting to happen to the passengers. It all started right after takeoff. We were heading over to Spain. It isn't really a very long trip, only about 3 hours max. But me and Kim had to wait an extra hour at the gate due to some delays. Apparently, someone at the baggage claim had gone nuts and halted all the incoming and outgoing planes. We didn't get much more information than that. The waiting at the gate was really boring and slow as usual. You see people come and go, almost like zombies, and your own mind seemed to go a bit fuzzy when you're just sitting there waiting. We wanted to save phone battery for when we had boarded, but time moved so incredibly slow. I almost entered a trance-like state when I heard our gate being called out on the speaker system. Finally, we were able to board the plane. Since we were traveling economy, we got seats in the far back of the plane. I hate traveling economy, but it was the only seats available, and I really had to make this particular flight. I had an important business meeting over there that could make or break the entire company that I was working for. Obviously, I can't disclose which company, but we did have a prototype with us. I really liked working with Kim on these kinds of things, and she had a much better understanding of how the prototype worked. She is tall, has brown short hair, and always a smile on her face whenever she sees someone she recognizes or likes. But she has really bad social anxiety, so much so that she can't stand in front of the judges and try to sell this thing to them. I can't tell you guys much about the prototype though, but our company really wanted to jump on this AI bandwagon and get ahead of the curve before anyone else gets the idea. I was just happy and much more relaxed when we had gotten our seats. And I heard the flight attendants call out a cross-check. That means we're good to fly. So I leaned back in my seat and looked over at Kim. She gave me a weak smile. I don't think she likes flying very much. Don't worry, the flight will be over before you know it. Just try to relax the best you can, I told her. It's not that. I'm just worried they aren't going to like the prototype and that this trip will be all in vain. I'm sure it'll be fine. We'll go through everything in the morning, and I can do most of the talking at the presentation. I put my hand on her shoulder and gave her a reassuring smile. I'd never been very good at that stuff, but hey, it's the thought that counts, right? We were at this point starting to taxi out to the runway, and everything really seemed normal. All the flight attendants were readying things and checking that all the compartments were closed. They were also doing the safety routine that nobody ever pays attention to, but still is something to keep your mind occupied while the plane is getting ready. Now, to takeoff. Everything seemed normal up until the wings started to lift the plane. It sounded like a metal ball rolled around in the overhead compartments, affected by a sudden deceleration. But the plane started climbing as it should have, though everything seemed a bit off. I couldn't exactly tell what it was that felt off, but a growling and twisting feeling in my gut started growing. Like your body is telling you that something has gone wrong. But I ignored it. Everything was going just fine after all, and what would I do if anything would go wrong anyway? I'm just a software engineer. I know nothing about planes more than what seems normal through my travels. We did reach cruising altitude though. I had the flight attendants started going up and down through the rows, asking people if they wanted anything to drink. Somehow seemed a bit slower than they are usually. They usually want to do it pretty quickly so that they probably have some time for chit-chat or whatever they do in the kitchen area, or whatever you want to call it. When they finally reached our seats, I asked Kim if she wanted anything to drink. She only wanted some orange juice, while I had a gin and tonic. I think they taste best on an airplane. I don't know exactly why that is, maybe it has something to do with the air. And the third person in our row was already passed out asleep. She looked a bit pale though, and it didn't take me long to finish my drink. And someone must have slipped something into it or something, because I passed out almost immediately after. and I do have a pretty high tolerance for alcohol. I woke up when I felt a sudden bump in the plane that felt like I'd ride over a speed bump at 50 miles per hour. My head was pounding. My body was aching from the uncomfortable position I had fallen asleep in, and I thought of more. A question was growing in my head. Did we crash? I slowly opened my eyes. They needed to adjust for a minute because everything was blurry. And once I started to see things more clearly, no, we had not crashed. The plane's engines were still humming along. I took a look around to discover that Kim was missing. But so was the other passenger in our row. The windows had fogged up, and there was mold growing on the neck rests of the seats in front of me. In fact, it seemed like the mold was growing pretty much everywhere, and the smell of foul odor, a mix of vinaigrette, rotten eggs, and a touch of old sweat. It really wasn't a pleasant smell at all. Panic is a weird thing, though. And as a calm, rational mind would probably have checked out through the windows or called out for Kim, or assumed that she was in the bathroom. But not me. I struggled with my seatbelt for what seemed like an eternity. The damn thing wouldn't come loose. And when it finally did, I just got up on my feet and jumped out into the aisle. There, I could calm myself down a bit and take a deep breath. My next instinct was to check my phone. 38% battery left, and the time was... What? How can that be? 2 p.m. That means we've been in the air for over 5 hours now. I should have not been asleep for that long. In fact, the plane should not have had enough fuel for an extra 2 hours, right? My brain finally started to think more rationally, and I went back into my seat, shuffling myself into the window seat to get a look outside. I wiped the fog away and noticed that it was pretty dark outside, almost like slightly before the sun goes down completely. I could see clouds moving around outside, so I could make a pretty good assumption that we were still in the air and still moving. I wanted to confirm this by checking the navigational app on the monitor on the seats. But when I poked at it, it only lit up momentarily, showing a red line across the screen. I took another deep breath. Air felt really stale and still smelled awful. I wondered if the air circulation system was offline. That's also when a thought hit me. Except for the humming of the engines, it was very quiet, too quiet. I hadn't checked if there was more passengers missing other than Kim. I remember that the plane was absolutely packed with people when I got on it, but now that I was drinking in the environments, I noticed that a lot of the seats were actually empty. There was a few that wasn't, though. I walked up to one of them and looked at the person. Looked like a man in his late 40s, red, short hair, some stubble on his face, and way too pale skin. Like he had been drained of all his blood. "Hey man, you okay?" I said and gave him a little push. To my absolute horror, his head fell off in a crunch. I felt my stomach twisting really bad. So I ran to the bathroom and dry heaved, but couldn't get anything out because I hadn't eaten anything. But weirdly enough, I didn't feel hungry. Every single part of my body still hurting. I got out of the bathroom and tried to think of what I could do. I decided to go to the cockpit. For some reason, it felt really eerie going through the plane, moving through economy and business up to the front of the plane and finally reaching the door to the cockpit. I knocked on the door. No reply. I banged my fist into the door, hitting it with all my strength. No results. Only a lot of pain in my hand. I was thinking that maybe I could reach the section of the plane that carried the bags, or something. I was mostly just wandering around aimlessly in a plane when I saw a boy hiding between 2 rows of seats. He was around 14 to 15 years old. I couldn't really tell. He was curled up into a ball, just shaking and seemed too scared to speak. I couldn't let him see that I was here as well, so I've been sitting here for a while, typing this out of my phone now. Occasionally trying to get him to calm down, reassure him that we are going to find out what is really going on. Somehow I actually have 2 bars of signal now, but they keep coming and going. The boys seem to be calmer. However, I think I need to go now. There's a weird low scratching sound. I can't tell exactly where it's coming from, but I'll update you guys again when I can.